Reviewing this Republican resolution before us, I found much in its findings and purposes with which I fully agree. The tax code is unfair. The tax code violates fundamental principles of equal justice. Exclusions, deductions, credits, and special rules make up tax expenditures that amount to over $1 trillion per year. And then I reflected on who has been in charge of this tax code for 14 of the last 18 years. And it is the very people who offer us this resolution today. And of the other 4 years, 2 of those, President Bush was in charge of our country. So they've had ample opportunity to correct these deficiencies in our tax code. But the problem is that rarely over the course of the last couple of decades have they met a lobbyist peddling a loophole that they could say no to. They talked to us about a fast track. Well, that would indeed be a new track for them, because they've had almost 2 decades to put in place a tax code that would resolve the problems of which they complain today, and they've been inactive through that period. Oh yes, there was a time when Republicans controlled essentially all 3 branches of the American government, and they flirted with a flat tax. It had great appeal to the Flat Earth Society that dominates the Republican caucus on most issues, but they couldn't make it work. And then they said they wanted a fair tax. And a fair tax sounded like something all of us could be for. The only problem was it was going to hack the cost of just about everything we buy, from food to a car to a home, by over 20%. And when you really get into the details, it wasn't all that fair, except to those at the top who benefited so much from the code that we have. And so Republicans have been in charge now for another 1.5 years in this Congress. They've had an opportunity to come forward not with a pathway to something they would do after the election, but with a specific plan of how they would reform our tax code. And instead of that specific plan for this tax code that has grown by hundreds, if not thousands of pages under Republican rule of complexity and exception for those lobbyists who are powerful enough to have their voice heard and acted upon in this Capitol, instead they come forward this flimsy little resolution of principles with whom most Americans could agree with all of them. It's just the action that counts. And they say, we want to go on a fast track, but we'd rather wait until after the election to start the track. Well, haven't we heard that story before when they were talking fair, when they were talking flat? Today they're just talking about what they might do in the future. And so we have to look for clues within this flimsy little resolution of what in fact they would do if they were in authority with President Romney, heaven forbid. And we got clue number 1 yesterday, when they said what they wanted was to extend all of the tax breaks that President Bush approved for the very most privileged people in our society. And the effect of what they proposed and the approach they took was that those who were sitting comfortably atop the economic ladder, they would gain. If they were a millionaire, they'd gain by more in their tax break than a police officer or a nurse or a small business owner in San Marcos or Schertz or New Braunfels or Lockhart, more than they make in a whole year. These people would get in a tax break. Do you have another couple minutes?
I yield an additional 2 minutes to the eloquent gentleman.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
But the Marine corporal, the single mom who's trying to get her daughter or son through college, they would actually see their taxes go up under this simplified, fast-track Republican approach. So those who are trying to get their toehold, their foothold on the first or second rung of that economic ladder, they end up having to pay for more tax breaks for those at the top. And now today, through this resolution, we see that what Mitt Romney was a part of in exporting jobs abroad, he was really just getting started. Because what they propose is a territorial tax system What is that? A territorial tax system is when you create jobs in somebody else's territory. Here's how it works. Here's the plan that they're talking about. You're a manufacturer and you're trying to decide, where will I create my new plant and locate it? I could locate it in San Antonio, Texas. I could locate it in Shanghai. Under their territorial plan, if you locate it in Shanghai, it's tax-free. Guess where the incentive is under their plan to create new jobs? It's not in Texas. It's not in America. It's someplace else. That's what the territorial tax system is all about. But of course, with all the loopholes that their lobbyists have been able to get through the decades, corporations aren't paying 35%. Many of our largest corporations like General Electric, they're not only paying less than the hardware store in Lockhart or in Austin that's selling their products, they're paying less than the cleaning crew that cleaned up the boardroom at General Electric pays in terms of a tax rate. Because they found all these loopholes, we have hundreds of large no-tax corporations that are paying next to nothing in terms of their taxes already. They would simply expand that with great inequity. I yield back.